Hello everyone. I made the original video on the CINTAMANI stone on December 4th, I believe it was, and now this is the 11th. I just didn't release the first one yet. I had some other things to release, so I did. And then today I had a Zoom cast with some of the Sholar. It was just an informal chat, nothing special, I didn't think, but both kind of chimed in on it and began to bring up this whole thing with the CINTAMANI stone again and some other things. And so I'm making this short addendum to the video that I made on it because I wanted to include this information. So what we're seeing on the screen here is, of course, from the Quest of the CINTAMANI Stone by Claire and William Henry. And it's a video that is in the Gaia TV portal, and so you have to have a subscription to watch it. It's not mine, so I'm not going to, be showing you out of the video, but I am doing the screenshots. And what you're seeing here, and I showed it in the first video that I made, is a depiction that was done by Claire Henry. Claire Henry, no, it was not done by Claire Henry. This was done by Nicholas Rorick's wife, whose name escapes me at the moment. She did this painting, and it represents what Nicholas had spoken about, that when he was being guided where to go to receive the CINTAMANI stone, if you will recall from the first video, he said that he was not allowed to enter the cave, that he had to send a white horse in to retrieve the stone. Well, on the Zoomcast I was having today with the Sholar, it was just a little chat thing, but when Thoth came through with this, he said that what happened was that the energy was so powerful that Nicholas could not just walk in the cave and get it. What happened was an avatar was created for him. I'm using the word avatar. Thoth called it what did he say already? A soul shell. I believe he called it a soul shell, but I'm equating it to an avatar, especially like I use in Second Life, where you have a body that's not yours, but you're projecting through it. And so the soul will still remain with Nicholas, but he projected his soul self, like an extension, into this horse that was actually just a soul shell. It was a Merkabic creation, and I don't believe he created it. It was in sync with him, but I believe that I'll tell you in a moment whom I think created it. But anyway, he was in this soul shell, this avatar, and then he was able to enter the cavern and retrieve the CINTAMANI. Now, the CINTAMANI I was seeing is just several stones, and this particular one was in this cave. Well, Thoth is showing me that it's in a cavern. It's much deeper than just you walk in a cave. It's way inside a cavern. So this Merkaba just took him there. He didn't have to go clip-clop like a horse and get there. It just took him there. And it's in a thresholding chamber. And in the form that it's in that cavern, it's like a fine prima matra-like substance. I'm going to call it that because in a way it is. And when he took the stone, he took some of that essence, but it replenishes itself. It constantly replenishes, so you can't take away from it. And so the soul shell took the essence and brought it back to him. And I don't know exactly how the transfer was made, but it wound up in a box, the box that was shown in this video that you're seeing here by Claire and William. And it was a box that Nicholas had, an ancient old one, and it was placed in there, and it was still a substance, like a fine etheric, but you could see it, but kind of substance. I don't know exactly what to call it. And it was kept in there for a certain short period of time while it became a stone. And then it could be held in the hand. It was a stone, and yet it had these incredible properties that could turn it into light and all kinds of things, And, of course, it's not the only stone of the CINTAMANI, the name they're calling it. And the whole thing about that is in the first video, so I'm not going to go into that again. But I wanted to add this part because I felt that it was very significant, especially given what next Thoth revealed to me today in the Zoom chat. And that is that this substance, well, first of all, I have to go back a bit. He brought back to my mind, and of course this is not something I've forgotten, but I've just not interacted with it in many years, and that is just a moment, I'm going to take it over to that page. Well, it was on a much older website that Simeon and I had many years ago. It's actually still up. But I just now, because of what he's told me, brought it over to Osiris Arising, and I chose to put it there as a page. You can find it up here, the IAC and Merkaba of the host. And I put it on Osiris Arising because it deals with Christic energy, Christic Osiris. That kind of energy goes generally onto the Osiris Arising blog. I'm not going to read all of this. I'll put a link to it because it's rather lengthy. But basically, we'll read the basic overview. The IAC is an acronym for Lumen Assembly of the Christos. This is an overall grouping of 144,000 beings who hold a specific ray of spiritual focus for the earth. They are in various planes of existence, including the physical plane of earth, the inner planes of the earth, and the inner earth as a subtler manifest reality within the hollow core of the planet. There are additionally 12 of these beings within the overall IAC who are called, or he's calling to me, the Merkaba of the host, and we use MOH as an acronym for them as well. These 12 beings form a Merkabic vehicle for the host, i.e. the soul of the being we knew as Yeshua or Jesus Yeshua. So this being may continue to illumine the earth with its spiritual effulgence and radiations. Now, that doesn't mean that this being cannot be present in our hearts and minds and consciousnesses without this host, but it does mean that they help bring it into a spectrum within the earth. It's a more viable source. And we're not speaking of the religion here, of course. We're speaking of the true Christic consciousness. You can access the energies. Wait, let's see. Let me go back. You can access the energies and consciousness transmitting through the Merkaba of the host by meditating with the IAC logos. And I didn't include that here because it was a rather primitive version. I'd like to recreate it, but not right now. But you can just meditate with it in your heart. You don't even have to have a logos. Meditation upon this logos imagery can create an attunement for the accessing of the central dynamic processing through the Merkaba of the host, and therefore the Christic ray as projected by the soul of Yeshua within the earth's collective consciousness. So that kind of gives you some information, but all 12 of these beings dwell within the interior of the planet, but come into the sacred hidden valleys of the Himalayas and the Andes on the surface of the earth for specific gatherings with the Archaios. The Archaios are the entire assembly of the illumined Christic beings. What are we calling them up here? All these words, the IAC, the illumined assembly of the Christos. So they do come on the surface of the planet, especially in the Blue Star Valley, to meet with them. And also in the Valley of the Three Crescents in the Andes of Peru. I'm not sure where that is. They do this as an act of holding divine presence upon the surface of the world. At these times, the core host Merkaba radiates a light of unearthly brilliance into the crystalline matrix of the earth. Most of the Kios, or Merkaba of the host, have never had incarnations among the surface populations of the earth. So the Kios of the Merkaba of the host, not the whole assembly of the Christos. Sorry about that. I haven't even read this information in many years, so I'm kind of clueless along with you as I go along. There are few exceptions, but their lives were led upon the surface earth in a way that was not enmeshed within the mass consciousness. This required a significant effort on the part of many beings in concert with them. The 12 Kios souls also once held a sacred presence and rayship within the 12 traditionally known apostles, and many not so well known as well, of Ishoa during that divine incarnation. And it goes on, and you can read all of this. So I'm bringing this up right now because they are the ones who guardian and created the sacred vault, we say, or thresholding chamber, where the CINTAMANI essence is held. This essence can be taken out of the container or the threshold, but it does not reduce the amount that's there. And through a process, it becomes a stone. So there are many CINTAMANI stones, not many, but it's not just one. But Rorik had gotten this particular one for the purpose that was outlined in the original video. So the Merkaba of the host, the 12, are the guardians of this. Now you notice in this picture how this little casket kind of resembles an ark, like the ark box. Thinking of the sacred On in its thresholding chamber that has become the substance, not exactly the same. I see it as a shimmery sort of shape, like that, but it's on a higher vibration. And when I look at the CINTAMANI essence, it's just like a white, shiny little glob, beautiful glob, but glob. It's not that, it's even further removed. But nevertheless, there's a relationship, a definite relationship between the CINTAMANI, as they're calling it here, and of course it goes by other names as well, and the sacred On, which is now in thresholding in the Crest in the Stone in Crestone, Colorado. So that's one observation. It says it has a sacred blue halo to it, which is interesting because I see a lot of different halos around the sacred On as well, not just blue, but maybe it was only blue at that moment when that was occurring, whatever he saw as he was given it outside of the cavern. And so further, well, here again we see Rorik holding the box. This is a statue, of course. So then Thoth proceeded to tell me that this essence was being given in a particular manner to certain sacred weavers on the planet. Now, these are weavers on the surface earth of the planet. They're shamanic beings. Most of them are indigenous, persons. But they're very highly evolved. They're on the very upper rung of the inner light network on the planet, and still be living on the surface of the earth. And they are not seen, they are not heard. I mean, yes, by some people, but they're not out there in the crowd, even in their own circles. And there are various ones that do different things, but among them are the sacred weavers. And they weave things, fibers, into cloth, into sacred mats, into mandala-like pictures, into clothing. They don't do a lot of it, but when they do, they then give it to other enlightened beings who wear it or use it in sacred ceremony, in sacred process, I should say. And usually this is done in even the people that are doing that are wearing the clothes that are for the sacred process or using the mandalas or whatever that are woven of this textile. They are working with it in retreats, in high places, so to speak, in literally high places like Himalayas, the Andes, and other places maybe not so high up physically, but high spiritually. So this is not something that's just going on out there that anybody can go look and see. And most of the indigenous elders do not know about this. Some of them, I believe, do, but I'm not positive about that. I do know, and this is kind of getting off the story a bit, but just a slight little bit, that when I received something about these special high elders that were working in South America, and this was many years ago that I received this, it had to do with crystal skulls and emeralds and whatever. And so then I'd received this, and then someone visited us in Crestone, and he was a Mayan shaman, pretty high up Mayan shaman guy. He was young then. Not young now, probably, but young then. And he was talking to me, and I was lying on a sort of a rest bed, and he was standing there, and then I started telling him this, and his eyes got so big, he just freaked, and he literally just plopped himself down on his stomach on the bed and stared right in my face, and he said, "How do you know that?" He didn't say it angrily, but just astounded. And then he proceeded to tell me that he did know about that. And we compared notes, and it was really quite amazing. So I do know that some know that, so I'm presuming that some know what I'm telling you here. Anyway, what they're saying now, what Thoth is saying now, is that this CINTAMANI substance is being given now, or soon will be given, to these sacred weavers. And they are going to be weaving that into their fabrics, into their weaves. And that will go to the high places, the spiritually high and the physically high. And it will go to the people that know how to wear them, use them, and apply them in the real physical world. Now, why is the weaving so important? Because it brings together the matrices. Because they're not just doing weave, weave, weave. You know, this is a special kind of weave. It's not like anything you will have seen on the planet that no one just does out there. And it attracts the weave that's all around us. If we could see it, we would see that we live in a weave, a beautiful, sensitive, delicate weave like little spider webbies or you know, whatever, all woven in energy. And that's the kind of weaving that they're doing, although it's, you know, in fabric. But it connects to that. It integrates with that. It brings that through. And if you create it with the CINTAMANI, and you have to listen to the first video to understand the importance of that, then you have a whole nother level of experience. Now, Thoth is saying that this opening to do this was brought about. I mean, they knew it was coming, but the energy crucible is what is going on at Standing Rock. The prayers. We're not talking about the poor people being wounded and maimed and the oil cops and all that awful stuff. We're talking about the prayers and the hearts of the people, both the traditional indigenous and also the many other people that are coming to help them and pray with them and stand with them. All of this prayer and all of this attention on the prayer, even though the mainstream media has not covered it a lot, you know, certainly it's been covered a lot on alternative media, which more and more people are turning to. So all of these forces, even though those of us who can't actually go to Standing Rock have been putting ourselves into that prayer stream. And that's so powerful. And it's brought it up to a place where this allows the transfer of this vibration of this precious mana, the CINTAMANI. See, CINTAMANI, it's a mana. And the Ark of the Covenant contains the Saramani, another mana. Very, very similar, just maybe coming through a different experience. So this mana from the CINTAMANI can be given into the physical world now through this weaving process. And there's more to come, because once it's released into the weaving, and that comes first, then it can be brought into crystalline form. Not the typical stone, not the pure stone. That's done in a very special way. You have to go get it, and it's not something that can be done that easily, and it is done at times, obviously. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about taking the essence and weaving it, not taking it and just making it a pure stone from the essence, but weaving the aspects of it, the energies of it, into crystalline matrices. So it's not the same as a pure stone, no. But it has the weave, like the fabric does. And this can be woven in to crystals and metals, especially gold and silver, especially gold. But that's not coming yet. The first stage is the fabrics. And there can be art fabrics, rugs, prayer rugs, even some kind of weaving that you could wear, but it would be a woven, necklace or something. It has to be fabric woven. And I don't know if there's a special kind of fabric. There are probably several that would work for it. I think silk is certainly one. So this is what I'm receiving, and this is coming off the spin of my opening up this scroll again on the CINTAMANI, and then reconnecting with the Merkaba of the Host, the Assembly of the Christos, that whole thing. I haven't even, really touched it at all in many years. And so it's coming back into my experience now, and I am no doubt going to be receiving more through and about that presence. Now, a question was asked on the Sholar gathering, well, how can this relate to us? Is there any way that we personally can tap into this energy as it's coming through into these weavings? Well, we can certainly do so by simply connecting in the heart. Connecting in the heart and visualizing and ask to receive in our light bodies an essence, at least an essence of that weave. Now, also it was brought to my attention by Sholar the possibility of truly bringing that weave entirely into our light body experience. So I'm asking Thoth, does he mean that, or is it some kind of a lesser gradient of that? Well, I paused a moment to review the question. It's Samantha that asked it. And that is, can it be woven into the fabric of man, as she put it? And Thoth is saying that the first experience is receiving the essence of it in the light body. And that is sort of a brushing it, just touching it and kind of feeling that essence and moving into that experience. And yes, when these ceremonies go on with the people wearing this fabric, this weave, with the prayer rugs and the mandalas and all that they're using in this process, that's part of the whole thing that's going to start bringing the weave into the human experience, the true weaving into the body of man. That comes a little later in the whole process. But right now, we can certainly touch upon it. We can breathe it in. We can experience, it on a certain subliminal level by just doing that. And Thoth is also saying another way is me updating the logos that he created, that he had me create for it. The one I have, it's okay, but I can do better. I'm feeling that. I'm feeling it needs to be upgraded. And he's saying that, so I will be doing that. And of course, that's something to help you along. You don't need that. You don't need anything to do that. You just go in your heart and do it. But, it would be helpful. So I'm going to try to get that just as soon as possible. So really, this opens up all kinds of doors that I would like to explore. One is about these sacred shamans that are out of sight, that do these things. And there's those that are called the sacred weavers. He mentioned others. So what are they? Do they have a hierarchy? What are they about? I would really like to know. So that's one thing I'd like to look at. And then I would like to explore more a current update on the Merkaba of the Host and the Assembly of the Christos. Is there some new information there that should come through? That's another thing I'd like to do. And what else? There was something else. Oh, yes, about these avatars, these soul shells. That's very interesting. I've never heard of that before. And not, from anyone, and certainly not from Thoth. So I would like to explore that a little more. So these are some things I'm going to jot down on my list to get to. But the very next thing, I would really like to get this logos to go along with the CINTAMANI information. And so for now, actually the logos is not for the CINTAMANI, that is for the or is it? That's for the Merkaba of the host, yes. But Thoth is saying, I'm getting things mixed up. Thoth is saying that by meditating on the Merkaba of the host symbol, the new updated one. No. Hold it. Let me go back. Let my little brain get calm. He's telling me there needs to be 2 updates. One for the host of the Merkaba of the host, and the other in actual, which I have not done yet, one for the CINTAMANI stone. So there's 2 that need to be done. And it's the CINTAMANI stone one to meditate upon for that energy. And if you want to connect more deeply to the Merkaba of the host, and also through them to the whole illumined of the Christos, that would be the one to meditate with. Of course, again, you can do this without logos, but I'm just feeling guided to create them, and Thoth is giving me a little nudge in that direction. So those 2 need to be accomplished. Whew. Okay, so I guess that is all for now, and thank you for listening.